Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's going on here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Patton. We're now in the month of October. Yes, the Halloween decorations are out, and believe it or not, the Christmas decorations are out in the stores. I don't know where time's going, but I guess you might say that 3 months from today is New Year's Day. Isn't that awful?
We're right there, coming into it.
I know. I'll be watching the bowl games at this time of the day on New Year's Day, starting with the Citrus Bowl. But, you know, it just doesn't seem right that we're all of a sudden, fall is here now, the apples are ripe, and politics. Oh my gosh, politics is driving me nuts, the federal stuff. I don't know about you. But with me today is State Representative David Luneau, and he represents Ward 5 in Concord along with the town of Hopkinton. And you've been busy at the State House trying to get a budget done. Finally, that got done.
Right. Well, thanks, Dick. Always a pleasure to be with you and your viewers here, and
I enjoy having you on.
And yeah, we finally did get a budget done, and hopefully many people have taken a look at some of the reporting on it, particularly here in the Concord Monitor and the local paper. I think it's covered it pretty accurately.
Yeah.
And one of the notable highlights, I think, in that budget is something that that people will see shortly when they get their property tax bill, which is a significant increase in state funds to public education and to meaningful property tax relief. And those were two Democratic priorities in the House, and something that that we were able to successfully deliver on in the budget right from the get-go, and what was finally signed by the governor are exactly the same as far as education funding and property tax relief. It's about $140 million worth statewide, and the bulk of it, actually more than 50% of it, goes to support our most vulnerable communities across the state. Wow. Some are right here in the Concord area.
You figure Berlin really was having a hard time with schools up there. They closed their last elementary school up
absolutely.
there this year.
Absolutely.
Pittsfield, they're having problems over there. Franklin, another one. You know, it's like, where does it end? And there's a lot of it's special needs now you got to do for the special students who have disabilities. You've got to be able to conform to all those laws.
So the important thing to realize, though, is this isn't the end of it. This isn't even the fix. This is just something that we could do and do immediately to provide some relief to school districts, cities, towns, and property taxpayers. But another element in the budget, which I think is actually the most important part of the education plan in the budget, is the independent commission that will study funding for an adequate education here in New Hampshire, define an adequate education, define the cost of that, and the funding mechanisms for that. So so I've had phone calls even today about getting that in place, because that's something that is urgently needed here in the state. It hasn't been looked at in nearly 2 decades, and we all know that that what's in place right now is far from adequate, and is not doing our students or Granite Staters any justice at all.
Now, curiosity, when you talk about the school funding, now this just affects the public schools, not the privates or the charter schools, right?
Well, it affects public schools. Charter schools are public schools, and I think that's important to realize. They generate their money for their operating costs a little bit differently than what other public schools do, but there's no cost for a student to attend a charter school in New Hampshire.
No, that's not what I understood. I understood that the students had to pay tuition to go to a charter school.
No,
but they're not getting funding from the city of Concord.
They're not getting funding from the city of Concord. They are getting funding from the state of New Hampshire. They do raise private money through through charities and through other nonprofits, and they certainly do fundraising and seek donations from the families. But they don't charge tuition to attend.
Because I know there's one right up here at the Steeplegate Mall. They only had like 15 students last year, and I'm sure the rent up there is outrageous, but they're still there. But I just wondered, because they are cropping up like vegetables in our garden patch. For a while there, it was like everybody had a charter school, and I wondered what's the difference. And I remember when I was a legislator, there was quite a discussion about that, because as the public, we have no say with them. They're not part of the school board of Concord. They're separate. But you've explained it a little bit differently than what I was used to listening to. But you know, and it gets me too with the gambling bit. They don't want casinos, but they're always adding stuff. You know, I know now you can have charitable casinos, supposedly, or charitable gambling. Mm-hmm. Does any of that money come to the state too, or no?
Oh yeah. Well, the charitable gaming, I don't know, to be honest. I think a certain percentage of those proceeds have to go to support the charity that that it serves. Yeah. But you know, I think one that most of your viewers are probably really familiar with is the Keno Garden thing, which ushered in Keno gambling. Yeah. In restaurants in cities and towns that adopt this provision, and the money for that would go to support full-day kindergarten programs across the state. It's another thing that we succeeded on in the budget, that we got rid of the connection between Keno and full-day kindergarten. So now full-day kindergarten is funded just the same way grades 1 through 12 are funded. Doesn't get rid of Keno, but it breaks the connection between Keno gambling and how we fund full-day kindergarten programs.
See, Keno is back on the city ballot this year for us to vote on in November. They defeated it 2 years ago, but now it's back on the ballot this year for
Right.
November election in Concord. So other communities are saying they're having much luck with it. I don't know. But you know what gets me is when we started Powerball, that was supposed to go for education. Does it still go for education? We don't know. Or what's going on with that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that drop into the education trust fund. You know, I think one of the things that most people look at is you know, New Hampshire sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah.
New Hampshire
Yeah.
lottery certainly does that. You know, to the extent you know, that includes Powerball and others.
Mega Millions.
Yeah, Mega Millions. I you know, that all supports the education trust fund. But obviously you know, those sources of dollars aren't enough to provide the state what it needs to you know, to fulfill its obligation to school districts across the state. So the education trust fund does receive money from our general fund. So that's things like you know, business taxes that go into that. Obviously, you know, New Hampshire liquor store revenues or profits go into the general fund, and so you know, these are things that the Education Funding Commission is really going to have to take a very serious look at, so that we provide the state with the resources to do what it needs to do to provide an adequate education for all students here in New Hampshire.
So what happened on veto day? I thought the Democrats were going to override all those vetoes, and they only got one.
Well, you know, we knew going into it we don't have a veto-proof majority in the House nor in the Senate. You need 2/3.
I was surprised when I saw that.
You need 2/3.
I thought sure that some of those vetoes were going to get overturned, but I was shocked when they didn't. Only one got through.
Yep. And you know, a lot of these bills passed with originally with strong bipartisan support.
Yeah.
And to see so many people run away from their original votes, I think
Yep.
is to me shocking. But I think it's something that hopefully voters across the state are going to take a look at the voting record of their legislators, and why did you support something then, and then after it was vetoed, why did you run away from your support for this? So we should be supporting things that are that we all believe are good in the best interests of Granite Staters, and a lot of people changed their vote when it came time on veto day. So
You're a good representative. You're funny. You're good.
well,
I've always liked working with you.
okay.
Well, our director has a question back on the school. It says, if school boards are not city controlled, does that mean a dollar difference in what they get?
If school boards
Are not city controlled, does that mean a dollar difference they get?
So school boards and city councils or select boards
Yeah.
are really two different things, and you've got two different what are called political subdivisions. You've got the city or town that is managed by the select board or city council,
Yeah.
and that through the select board or city council, it has taxing authority for local property taxes to raise money for police, fire, solid waste, stuff like that. Roads, infrastructure, stuff like that. Things that cities and towns do. School districts, similar type of thing. It's its own political subdivision, managed and run by an elected school board, and they also have taxing authority to raise money to support public education. And so it really doesn't matter if the school board reports to a city council. In the end, they're two separate
See,
taxing authorities.
Concord, they are separate. But Manchester, I think, doesn't the city alderman down there have to do the budget for the school board or approve that school budget? Something about that
see.
down
I
there.
think so.
Hopkinton has their own.
We have our own school board in Hopkinton, and
Don't you have a school district meeting first, and then the town meeting later, or a week or so later, or something?
yeah, the week later, but two separate meetings
Yeah,
considering
yeah.
two different
Yeah,
budgets.
yeah.
But you're right. Manchester, I think, has a unique organization. I think the mayor of Manchester is also the chair of the school
That's
school
what I
board.
was thinking. Yeah.
And either way, they're two separate budgets, two separate taxing authorities for raising monies for municipal operations and raising money for public schools.
Yeah, because I know that when I worked in Pittsfield for the police department over there, they would have the school district meeting on one Saturday, then like 2 weeks or a week or so later came the town meeting.
Right.
And they were both fiery.
Yep. Typically early March.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. March was the time.
Mhm.
And I know, who was the other one? Merrimack Valley, of course, they have theirs, but they're separate from, even though they're part of Concord, they're separate from Concord, but.
Because it's a separate school district.
Yeah,
Yep.
separate school district, because they take in Webster, Salisbury, and Boston, and
Mhm.
Loudon.
Mhm.
I think Andover does too now, comes in there.
Mhm.
But anyway, I was just curious, because that's what he was writing
Yeah.
up there, but
Yeah. No, it's
I
good
did
fun.
think Manchester was different than us,
Mhm.
because something about that, I get the Union Native, and I read
Mhm.
their stuff, and
Mhm.
in fact, they got several of them legislators that used to be, that were passed, president on the school board
Mhm.
down there, so,
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah, I served on the Hopkinton board for 12 years, and I'll tell you from personal experience, there's nothing like having to justify your proposed budget in front of 600 voters, and I think it teaches you a lot of really good lessons for business and for being a state rep, if that's what you want to do, or any other things, because you really have to be able to make your case and I think we do a good job to really involve our residents that way in making these final up down decisions on school district spending.
Next big thing coming up, of course, with all this presidential stuff. Have you been asked to support anybody yet, or just are you thinking you're still shopping around like most of us?
Yeah, I'm still shopping around. I mean, I think I'm like most people that while there was certainly a lot going on here in Concord over the summer, particularly over the budget, that and certainly a lot with presidential candidates visiting the state and speaking around the state, but with a lot of them out there. And a lot of them, I think, with tremendous background and skills. It's really good to get around and hear from them all and meet them, and then come to your own decision and go forward at that point. But I haven't come to one yet. So.
Well, in February, you know darn well that 3/4 of them Democrats are going to drop out either after New Hampshire or Iowa or South Carolina. How can they keep going?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if they get no votes hardly or whatever.
That's true. I mean, once if and they won't be able to keep going because they won't have the money to continue to run their campaigns.
It's foolishness.
But I love the fact that here in New Hampshire, being first in the nation, we get to see everybody, and you get to meet everybody. If you want to meet all the candidates, just get out there on the trail and go do it. They're all very accessible.
It gets me sick though. Hello, is this Dick Patton? Yes. We're doing a survey now. If the election were today, who would you vote for? Well, excuse me, it's like a whole year away from the election. I don't know who I'm voting for yet. Well, no, we're talking February. Well, I don't know yet because I'm not declared. So there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got, 3 or 4 Republicans now taking on the current one.
Right.
And then you've got, up to 24 there were Democrats all trying for the spot. It's like, now it's coming down between Biden, Sanders, Warren. Then there's maybe a Booker in there, or a Boodle, I can't pronounce the name, Boodle from Indiana, or I don't know. It's just, you get tired of it after a while. I mean, survey after survey on the phone.
Well, you don't have to take all the surveys.
But you don't. But you don't know because see, they're using Concord numbers. That's how they get.
It's true. It's true, and
that's how they're getting it.
And of course, as you know, Dick, that's illegal here in the state of New Hampshire because we passed a law that prevents what's called caller ID spoofing.
Yeah.
And so obviously the enforcement of that can be tricky. But if you've got evidence of people doing that, calling you. You can report that to the Attorney General's office here in Concord. They're very interested in following up on those sorts of abuses.
Oh, that's good. So you're planning, I understand, you're thinking of planning or contemplating on planning maybe a run for the state Senate next year.
So
for the Democrat part of it.
Right. So we've been really fortunate the last many years to have such strong and great representation in the New Hampshire Senate from Concord. So Sylvia Larson and Dan Feltus, and obviously with Dan has announced his run for governor and challenge. For that creates an open seat in the Senate. So yes, I'm seriously thinking of it. There's a lot of factors that have to go into this. I think we're still really early on in this,
But how much does a state senator get paid now? We get, I should say we, not me, but you get $100, but you get mileage from Hopkinton, but some mileage. But what does the state senator get?
So state senators receive the same as state reps.
They do $100?
Yep, $100 a year. So
and all the meetings they have to go. I mean, that's a big commitment.
So it's not a pay raise, but you certainly have. there's 400 members of the House, which makes that one of the largest legislative bodies in the world, and there's 24 members of the Senate, which honestly makes it one of the smaller legislative bodies.
And I'm surprised they don't expand the Senate a little bit.
So,
Really, that is a big district. I mean, I think well, you had executive council. One of them has a tremendous district, and you would have what? Warner, Hopkinton, and Concord.
so Senator Feltus's district is Concord, Hopkinton, Warner, and Henniker.
Oh, Henniker.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of a spread out district in a way. You think they would have it more like Concord, Pembroke, Loudon, Bosquen maybe, but that's crazy how they do that.
Well, and I think that, a lot of the Senate districts across the state are some of the most gerrymandered districts in the country. And so it was probably, very purposeful that those four towns, the city of Concord and the towns of Hopkinton, Henniker, and Warner were combined, in an effort to provide, to basically make it less competitive for Democrats in other districts. So one of the bills that was vetoed by the governor was the bill to put forward an independent redistricting commission.
I know, I saw that.
Which is really a shame because that's something that really puts Granite Staters in control when you can have sort of fair and honest elections where both parties are competitive and you can make a decision on who works best for you. And so hopeful at some point down the road that we'll be able to be a state that has an independent redistricting commission and really take a look at this map.
You decide to run for state senate. What kind of a budget? I mean, how much money should someone have to raise to run for something? I mean, it almost is embarrassing on state rep. You get $100 a year in Concord, no mileage, and people are spending. I don't have it, and I refused all the years I was in to ask people for money. But I don't understand. But like you, what are you going to try? You'd have to raise.
Yeah, so you got to raise money. I don't know, how much.
10,000.
No, it's probably a lot more than that.
Really?
Yeah, but because you do have somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 voters. I'm sorry, 60,000 residents that are in your Senate district, and I think if you're going to do good political outreach and some mailings and things like that, that adds up. And even in a House district, when we do our mailings, and of course the district I'm in, I'm with Representative Mary Jane Wallner from Concord, and Representative Mel Myler from Kentucky. So the three of us represent the town of Hopkinton and Ward 5 of Concord, and it can get pretty expensive when you send a mailer out to let voters know that you're running, tell them where the polling place is, let them know what your policy priorities are, and so Senate districts are a lot bigger than that.
Interesting. I guess I never thought of that. That's how much the wards in Concord have changed, because over here everybody used to know everybody. Now we've got so many new Americans that we don't know anybody.
Well, I love it when people move into the state of New Hampshire, whether they're new Americans or they're people moving from other states, and they come to New Hampshire for a lot of different reasons. But it helps build our workforce. It helps improve our diversity. It helps, I think, make New Hampshire even a better place. And I think a lot of us can probably take a look around, not just Concord, but other parts of the state, and really see how it's improved our state. Certainly, one of the things I've done, or one of the things I've been doing for quite a while now, is serving on the advisory board at NHTI, our community college here in Concord, and diversity there has improved steadily over the last decade, and it's a wonderful place to go for higher education and to get a degree or a certificate in a high value, high demand field. So
I thought they were going 4 years down there, though.
no, it's 2 years.
Still 2 years.
Yeah,
I
2
thought
year,
it was going 4.
but I don't even want to stop it at 2 years. There are certificate programs you can get out of
Okay.
NHTI and our other community colleges
Yeah.
that are high value, that certify somebody's background, whether it's in computer programming or other things,
Yeah.
and you can get out into the workforce
Sure.
and do really well and help build the New Hampshire economy.
Yeah. Well, we're coming down. Oh, we still got 2 minutes left, you know. So, well, you've got a couple of months off, I guess. Finally, now, somewhat from sessions, because God, they went late this time. But and then you'll start again in January. What's committee you on still?
So I'm vice chair of the House Education Committee,
Yeah.
and I don't expect a lot of downtime. I don't expect any downtime this fall with our study commission on education funding ramping up,
Yeah.
and I don't expect any downtime after the session begins either. And we've just finished our bill filing period. I've got a handful of bills in, generally public education focused.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of work we need to do on that, and we'll be at it every day.
Well, you gotta be careful. You're getting too much salt and pepper here.
I know that. I know that. I was.
There, buddy. You gotta be careful. I'm saying you
But
see
that's
Miss
okay.
Clara. You see Miss Clara all there. Buddy.
That's okay.
Well, we are coming down to 1 minute. You got to go back to the State House for meetings this afternoon. But thanks for coming on there, David, and good luck to your pursuits. I'm anxious to hear
Thank
what
you.
you're going to
Thank you.
decide.
Well,
And
always a pleasure, Richard.
Well, I know.
No, thank you very much, and thank your viewers. And
who knows? Maybe we'll get you on again next year. But I want to make sure that maybe next time might be state senator.
there you go.
Yes.
So,
Good ring to it.
all right. Thanks. Thanks for your vote of confidence. So, great.
All right, well, have a great day, and thanks for joining us for the State Representative David Luneau from Ward 5 in Hopkinton, and thanks to my director, Brian Blackton. Have a great day. See you all soon around
Thank you.
town.